You're listening to The Blind Chick, an Aftersight original podcast. We're telling you stories about strength, overcoming hurdles, and living experiences. We see who you really are. Blindness can be an adventure. Are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? We are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Blind Chick. That's Moses Street.
And that's Penn Street, the Blind Chick. And we are excited today because our guest is from Ireland. And so I suspect he's a neo-peaky blinder.
Ooh. We do know.
No. I have no comeback for that. I have no comeback. That is top tier.
I warned you. You
did. In fairness, you did.
And his name is David Redmond.
Yes.
And he's got some exciting news, but I'll let Penn take it from here.
Yes, David, we're so excited to have you here today. And I know you work with Vision Ireland, and I'm so excited to find out more about that. And I do want to give a shout out, though. David, he's an advocate. He works on accessibility in all different avenues. And then going along with that, please mark your calendar. September 13th, it's coming up really quick, is our annual accessible hike. And it's going to be back in Boulder, Colorado this year. And everybody is welcome. It's a great day in the mountains, regardless if you have never hiked before or if you are, a really go-getter in the mountains, which I'm kind of in the middle. But we do make sure that everybody has the support that they need and or want. We have different tools there so that you can hike independently, regardless of your vision level. And so if you want to do it on your own, that's awesome. If you want a lot of help, that's awesome. We also provide, for those of you who need to be motivated by food, we do serve breakfast and lunch and also have great snacks. So we have everything you need. Just check it out at aftersight.org/hike. So let's get started. David, welcome to The Blind Chick.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's always great to get to chat on some of these different podcasts and learn, a little bit about what's happening stateside, and for us to get to share a little bit about what's happening in our neck of the woods here in Ireland. So yeah, delighted to be joining you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. David, tell us a little bit about yourself. Besides, obviously, your accent, and Moses said that you were in Ireland.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your story, where you grew up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so as you said, I am indeed in Ireland. I'm in a county called Cork, so right down at the south of Ireland. Ireland is pretty small, but Cork is one of our biggest counties. It has a population of around 600,000. But I live out in one of the suburbs, and then we have a Vision Ireland office here based in the city. But born and raised here in Cork, and still live in Cork. In terms of my vision impairment, because I know that's something that a lot of people, obviously, who would listen to this will have an interest in. So I have glaucoma. I have glaucoma will be kind of my primary condition, congenital glaucoma, but I've also had a few different bits and pieces thrown in along the way, congenital cataracts, nystagmus, and a few other bits as well. But I suppose in terms of then growing up, I would have used assistive technology in school. I would have started off using JAWS, a little bit of ZoomText. And now I'm firmly on the Apple side. I use VoiceOver. So I use VoiceOver across phones. I'm chatting to you on a Mac using a little bit of Zoom right now. So a mix of different things. I kind of mix depending on the circumstance. But I guess growing up, I had a similar level of vision throughout. until I was in what we call transition year here in Ireland. It's kind of like a year where you do, I suppose, a lot of non-academic activities in school. So you would do a lot of tours and it's kind of set aside for social development almost.
How old are you when that happened?
You're around kind of 15,
okay.
16. So you're around 15 or 16, kind of. Some might do it at 17. It depends, but thereabouts, kind of mid to late teens. And while I was in transition year, the glaucoma started playing up, unfortunately. So they say, that you want to typically keep your pressure between kind of 20, 22, like beneath that. I hit at my highest, I was hitting 45. So not great, but I then had surgery around that point that basically inserted this kind of effectively a tube. It's kind of like a little implant. You don't notice it or anything, but it's there working away in the background, and that kind of drains the fluid from the eye on its own. And thankfully, that's been working really well the last number of years ever since. But I lost a little bit of vision around that time, but I still have a little bit of usable vision, I would say.
That's awesome. I mean, it's always good to have a little bit. I too have a little bit, and I'm very thankful that it's hanging in there. But also I know for a fact that if I do completely lose it, I'm still okay. I have the skills and the support and the tools that,
There's a lot of comfort in that, I think. And that's something I think everyone who has, like my condition isn't progressive per se, but there's always a risk. And I should say that I only have usable vision in one eye. So I suppose, I'm relying on that one eye to, keep playing the game. And it's one of these things, I think I've thought about that before, as all of us have, how would I manage should something go wrong, or should I lose that vision? And I would obviously, I think, everyone fears it somewhat, but I do think, and hopefully I don't have to deal with it, but I do think I would in time, be able to find a way through, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do take comfort in that.
Yeah, it is. Penn's been blind since 9, and she's got mad skills, and none of the cliched blind mannerisms. And that plays havoc with me because I forget that she can't see. Even after 38 years, I never think of her as being blind.
Which gets him in trouble occasionally.
It gets me in so much trouble.
It's funny. I asked recently, just out of pure curiosity, I asked one of the sighted members of staff here in Vision Ireland recently, like how obviously visually impaired I am, just to look at, if you know what I mean. And apparently it's quite obvious, but it's also something I haven't noticed. But apparently things like the nystagmus are the giveaways for me, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, my eyes don't look, quote, I'm doing air quotes, normal. But I also know if I'm in an unfamiliar situation, I definitely, I don't know if this is the correct term, but I act more blind because I'm very, and all of those skills go into overdrive because I don't, but where if I'm at home, I don't use my cane at home or my guide dog. And I know my way around my house unless my husband leaves, a chair in the middle of the room or something. Which he's known to.
Yeah. Well, if she crosses me, I do that to get even. I'm passive aggressive here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it works. It's one option. It's one method of defense.
So, David, I know tech is a big deal. Like, I mean, most of us, right? Regardless of what age we lose our vision in these days, we really do need to become as tech savvy as possible. When did you, growing up, and you had that year where you sort of discover I wish they did that here in the United States. What an incredible opportunity. But when did you decide, did you want to grow up and get in the field that you're in now, or did you just sort of happen with Vision Ireland, or?
Yeah, so kind of. So growing up, my interest wasn't always, I always had an interest in tech, but my primary interest was in media, and specifically radio.
Oh, wonderful.
And even growing up, I would have done kind of summer camps for kids that do kind of radio-based activities and learning to broadcast and stuff like that, and loved that side of things. So my kind of idea of what I wanted to do was always some kind of radio work in some fashion.
Wow.
So when I was done secondary school here and was looking to do college, I went in to do radio and media production. So did that. I was, if I do say so myself, I was pretty good at that. I was able to make it work and was able to find ways to make that accessible. But when you finish a course like that, you unfortunately quickly discover that the real world of commercial radio is quite challenging to get jobs in, whether you're visually impaired or not. But I think particularly if you're visually impaired. And I have friends that are doing it, and it's absolutely possible. But it's quite difficult. So I was doing a little bit then of, say, paid community radio work and stuff like that for a while. But then I was volunteering at the same time for what was then the NCBI, the National Council for the Blind of Ireland. So I was volunteering for them for a while, and eventually they were looking to bring someone in to kind of do technology content. So technology podcasts, newsletters, YouTube videos, stuff like that. So in some respects, it took that kind of knowledge of, I suppose, accessibility that I had, and it brought together the kind of that with the media experience that I loved and had from college. So I joined what was then the NCBI back almost 3 years ago now. We've since changed our name to Vision Ireland. And done a little bit of jumping around the shop over time. I've done some stuff for our sister company, Viali, in that time as well. But now my full-time job here is basically producing our podcasts, our technology content, and then a little bit of technology training as well. So it's been a fun road to get to it. So while I didn't end up in what I would call mainstream radio or kind of broadcast entertainment, like I initially thought maybe was the possibility, I've actually ended up in what is, in my view, the kind of perfect role for me in some respects for using my skills and my interests. So I'm really lucky in that respect.
And what is the podcast? Do you do several? Like I know here at Aftersight, the umbrella over the Blind Chick, we have several different podcasts. Is it the same with Vision Ireland, or do you have one main podcast?
So our main podcast, which I host and produce alongside one of my colleagues, Joe, is our technology podcast. So Talking Technology. So that will be very similar to your Aftersight podcast, Blind Level Tech. So we do also have other podcasts. So we have one centered around advocacy. So we have Advocacy Talks. So for those ones, I specifically do things like the edit. I'm not involved as much in the production or hosting of those. My main stuff is our Talking Technology podcast, and we have a Tech on Tap newsletter, which goes out every week as well. So so those are our two main podcasts, and those are my babies for sure.
Wow. And it sounds like your whole career has run pretty smoothly, but like here in America, blind people who are looking for a job actively are 70% unemployed. And spending many years with Penn, what she had to fight through was unfriggin' believable. And did you run into any blocks like that you had to just stand up and fight for yourself?
I mean, I think I certainly had, time after college where I was unemployed, and that's never fun for anyone.
Right.
And in Ireland, unfortunately, like I don't get me wrong, I love Ireland. I think Ireland's amazing, but we do also have a really high unemployment rate for people with disabilities, unfortunately. Yeah. So that's something that is similar between Ireland and the US.
Right.
But I've had those experiences where, I've been offered a job, and I won't name and shame the company.
No, shame them.
I would love. I don't want to get Aftersight sued.
I got that.
I've definitely been, like, one of the most frustrating experiences was I was offered a job at a company which shall remain nameless, and then as soon as they found out that I was going to need to use a screen reader, it was just, I never heard from them again, and like that is really frustrating. And I'm lucky that I didn't have too many of those experiences. I got into, like, after college, realistically, like, I got into Vision Ireland or NCBI after about a year. So I was really lucky. I got in here really young, and obviously because we're similar to Aftersight, like we're a blindness / vision impairment organization, so things are accessible. The staff and the team are really accommodating. We're able to do things in an accessible way, so I'm really, really lucky in that regard. But I think for a lot of people, and I've certainly experienced this in some ways, it's not always smooth sailing, and it can definitely be a point of frustration for people, for sure.
Yeah, I noticed when we were doing some research about Vision Ireland, you have offices all over the country, which is awesome. What are some of the other things you guys do besides obviously the podcasting and the advocacy?
Yeah, so the podcasting is actually a tiny part of what we do. So that's just two of us, myself and my colleague Joe, work mainly across the podcast and newsletter. So that's a tiny part of what we do. What we mainly do, and what Vision Ireland mainly does, is it kind of aims to be, I guess, a one-stop shop for support for people who are blind and visually impaired. So if someone, maybe they've been visually impaired or blind for years, or maybe they're newly diagnosed with something like, AMD or macular degeneration or glaucoma or whatever the case may be, they would come to us and they would meet with our community resource workers. So they will, be the first kind of introduction that person has to, the basic things like your magnifiers or liquid level indicators, or those just general, those little handy bits and pieces that we use to make life a little bit more accessible. So then from there, they can be referred into different, more specific services depending on their needs or interests. So within that, we have things like technology, we have orientation and mobility. We also have, so the technology is the one that I work in, and do bits there. But we also have Vision Sports Ireland, which is an organization for accessible sport. So they're like the national governing body for parasport, for vision impairment in Ireland. Wow. So we have a lot of different strings to the bow. We would do things like digital accessibility consulting. So we would work with companies to make their websites and apps and digital products like ATMs more accessible. We do that for the built environment as well. We'll do training for maybe it's transport staff to make sure that they're being inclusive when they're interacting with someone with a disability. So we do a lot of different things. It's like, it's one of these things. We try to be the one-stop shop. I mean, we don't do everything. So for example, our friends over at Irish Guide Dogs do take care of, as the name would suggest, guide dogs. So we will direct people to guide dogs if that's something that they need. But we try to be a kind of a one-stop shop. And if we can't be a one-stop shop, we'll send you in the right direction as to where you need to go. And I suppose that's the best description I can give of what we in Vision Ireland try to do, I suppose.
That's amazing that you guys are reaching them where they are versus like kind of forcing them into this, program that you think that they need to. It sounds like that you evaluate them and you kind of meet them where they are in their sort of vision journey. Did you? Yeah,
and
it is. When you were growing up, did you get to hang out with other blind and low vision kids, or did you?
So I did actually. Back as I was saying, Vision Ireland used to be the NCBI, and growing up, they would have done technology summer camps, different accessible games, and I remember playing, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Jaws, and But we also have things like Campabilities, which is like a summer camp for people who are blind or visually impaired. And that's kind of sports based. That was under a different organization at the time, but it's under Vision Sports now. So I did. And it's funny. I think, for me in school, I wouldn't say I didn't have friends, because I did, but I think it's sometimes harder for visually impaired people to have those meaningful relationships that other people have. And even now, I find myself, like, my friend group is mainly blind or visually impaired, which I think is really interesting. And it's people that I would have met through things like Campabilities. So I think that has huge benefit,
Interesting. Well, this is going along with that, but also going back a little bit, is that it would be wonderful if the states had something like you work for, because we are constantly getting people who are losing their sight, and they do not know where to turn. They've got to search and search and search, and unless they've heard about Penn or Aftersight and can call her or email her, they just flounder for years.
Yeah, there's no one stop. Like, so if you're, if you need a cane, you really have to seek out a place that might have orientation and mobility services. And do they have grant? Like, maybe you can't afford it, so do they have grants? If you need a white cane, and you can't afford it, or you don't even know what size, blah blah blah. It's like, it's so scattered, not only what state you're in the United States, but also even what county, it could be, or even what city you're in. And so it's there have been attempts to organize that and have that one-stop shop, but it has definitely not worked out.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I think in Ireland, we're lucky that, Ireland is really small in the scheme of things. So we're able to do that. It makes sense for there to be like, and don't get me wrong, there are other organizations as well. There's, as I say, there's guide dogs, but there's also Fighting Blindness or Child Vision and different organizations like that. But I think in the States, you have organizations like the ACB or the NFB, but the thing with the ACB or NFB is, they're going to have different operations depending on the state that you're in, as you said, Penn. So it's, it's going to be different everywhere. And that's just the reality based on different funding in different states and different resources in different states and counties. So it's so big that it's very difficult to have a unified service because everything is different everywhere.
That is true.
And one of the, let me jump in on that. It's a short one. Is that's another thing that it appears that you have that we don't. Is a guest we were talking to the other day pointed out that the names that companies who help the blind are so random, you would never in a million years guess that they help the blind. So it might be something like United emeritus,
whatever,
blah, blah. And you go, that's not me. I don't need that. I don't even know what they do, you know? And most of the organizations out there have crazy names that you would never in a million years relate to blindness.
It's funny because we, as I say, like we changed our name. It's probably nearly 2 years now. So we used to be the NCBI and we became Vision Ireland. And we had been the NCBI for like 90 years before that. So I think there were a lot of people were, I think upset is a fair way to put it, that, they felt like it was a change in history, and there's a lot of connotations that we don't want to make the word blind seem like a dirty word, which it absolutely isn't.
No.
But I think what we've seen is that people are willing to approach Vision Ireland. We're really lucky now that we have staff in the hospitals as well. So they are hearing about Vision Ireland. We'd obviously love, to be more known and have people, be more aware of what we do. But that's a never-ending battle, and all we can do is kind of, share the information in any opportunity we get, whether that's on radio or television or on a podcast or wherever. And hopefully that will eventually mean that those who feel the need to interact with our service or would like to interact with our service, they will find a way to reach us. And I think that's absolutely important.
Well, we're going to stop it right here. Thank you guys so much for listening to The Blind Chick on an Aftersight original podcast. We're so thankful for you guys, and we keep climbing charts all over the world. So we could not be more thankful for the benefit and the support that you guys give us. Come back next week because David is going to go deeper into what it's like being blind in Ireland and some of the nuances that we may face that are different here in the States than over in Ireland. Also wanted to give you a heads up. September 13th is our hike, so make sure you get registered for that. We're only 2 weeks away, and it's going to be an amazing time. So go and register at aftersight.org/hike for all the information and to register. All right, that's all we've got for today. So in the words of Penn and Moses, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. It's good for your soul.